I let AI take over every second of my life for 24 hours. By the end, I wasn't entirely sure who was in control. The rules were absolute. For one full day, a language model would dictate my work tasks, my daily diet, my entire schedule, and even my creative decisions. I wouldn't provide input, I would only provide execution. It's a strange feeling waking up and realizing you've outsourced your agency to a server. You're no longer the pilot, you're the hardware. Most people expect a machine to fail when it enters the real world, but as I opened my laptop to start the day, I realized the real danger was what would happen if it actually succeeded. At 8 a.m., the AI went to work. It sorted 200 unread emails in 4 minutes. It drafted responses, prioritized my meetings, and mapped a route for my errands that shaved 10 minutes off my usual commute. Seeing a week's worth of administrative friction vanish in a few seconds is unsettling. It makes you realize how much of your professional life is spent on logic-based loops that a processor handles better than a brain. When the rules are clear and the environment is digital, the human element isn't an advantage, it's a bottleneck. But the experiment wasn't just happening on a screen. I had to eat, move, and exist in a physical body. Look at this block at 12:45. It gave me a 3-minute window to finish a deep work task, travel 3 miles to a lunch spot, and begin eating. Because the AI doesn't understand the physics of traffic or the biology of digestion, it treated my body like a program. By 2 p.m., I was physically exhausted and dealing with a stomachache from a meal it insisted I eat in 90 seconds. The schedule was breaking me. But the real test was still ahead, a task that required something a calendar can't provide, a point of view. The AI has no biological anchor. It can't feel fatigue or hunger, so it assumes those variables don't exist. It optimizes for time, but it ignores the friction of being alive. As the day wound down, I moved to the most complex phase, the creative work. I asked the AI to generate a concept for a story about childhood nostalgia. It suggested a scene where a child finds a vintage smartphone from 2022 in a sandbox and cries because the battery is dead. It's a bizarre choice. The AI knows those words are associated with nostalgia in its database, but it doesn't understand that a child in a sandbox wouldn't have an emotional connection to a lithium-ion battery. The story structure was correct, the grammar was perfect, but the logic was hollow. It was a simulation of a memory by something that has never remembered anything. This is where the experiment hit a wall. When a task requires a lived understanding of human culture, the algorithm's lack of context becomes a barrier it can't compute its way through. To see why the AI failed that creative test, we have to look at how it actually thinks. This is pattern prediction. The AI isn't contemplating the concept of a sandbox, it's calculating the statistical probability of which word usually follows another based on trillions of lines of text. Human cognition works differently. We connect words to lived experiences, the smell of the sand, the weight of the phone, the feeling of the sun. Our data is biological and intentional. The AI doesn't have that network. It operates on a probability map of human output, without ever touching the human meaning that created that output in the first place. A machine can predict the shape of a sentence, but it cannot understand the purpose of the story. But there's a final question we have to ask. If the AI was able to handle so much of my day successfully, what does that say about how I was spending my time? It's easy to focus on the AI's failures. It's harder to admit that a huge portion of our daily lives, like the emails, the daily scheduling, the rote decisions, is so mechanical that it doesn't actually require a human mind to do it. This experiment started as a way to test a machine, but it ended as an audit of my own habits. It forced me to see how much of my life I've been living on autopilot. The machine didn't replace my humanity. It just exposed how many parts of my day weren't very human to begin with.